Hi, I'm Nadine, and this is how to coach the nervous rider. So, I think I'm actually a better coach than I am rider right now. My goal is to get better in my riding, but that just means I have to get in the saddle more. But anyway, if somebody comes to me with baggage, or if they come to me just feeling general nerves, one of the first lessons that I love to do is well, it depends on the level of baggage or the level of nervousness. So let's call 0 to 10, where 0 is, um, let's say, no baggage, and a 10 is a lot of baggage or a lot of nervousness. Let's go starting at the number 10. Actually, you know what? Let's start at 0. So if somebody has a lot of confidence and no baggage, you can work on body mechanics and technique and let's say a 10 out of 10 confidence. Okay, you can work on so many different things because emotions are not playing a role. So that's where you can get really technical and work on all those little things to make a course excellent. But if somebody has baggage, their emotions are going to override their technique because their emotions are going to affect their technique. So let's say that somebody is really confident, so they have no baggage. I would go ahead and raise the fences up after the warm up and work on specific techniques of saying, okay, you got the 6 done, but let's go ahead and make that 6 stride even better so that the horse jumps well, or so that your technique jumps well. Now, that is like a 0 out of 10 for baggage. Let's say that somebody has a 4 out of, that's too high. Let's say they have a 4 out of 10 for baggage, where they're, 3. I meant to say 3. So they have a 3 out of 10 for baggage. What I would do then is there's not a ton of baggage to unpack. So you could probably have a conversation at the start of the ride. And that's where your rate of speed of talking can calm it down, calm the energy down of the course. So I would just start talking a little bit slower, not tons slower, but a little bit slower. And then through explaining the technique, you can kind of the rider can kind of let that go as they go around. When a rider has anything kind of like a 4, starting at a 4 of baggage, that's when their technique is going to start suffering. So you'd want to address what's causing the baggage so that you can ride better. So taking that 5-10 minutes to go, okay, so like, what about this fence is scary? Or for dressage, like, what about this dressage move is scary? And then if they can't articulate it, you can kind of go, okay, so you can start picking up on their language patterns and just be like, oh, okay, this is a fear of going fast, or this is a fear of mistakes, or this is a fear of, like, if you can kind of identify through what language they're using, what words they're using, of what the fear actually is, they can start letting it go and be like, okay, when you're asking them, hey, does this feel like this that's causing your fear? So, like, when you ask them like that, they're probably not going to get it, defensive, and they'll be like, yeah, that actually feels like it. Fear of making mistakes is so huge. That's usually where you're going to find the 4 out of 10 baggage, is like if they were in a past program where you have to do everything right 100% of the time. That can create baggage of not even wanting to try. So when you're kind of in the experimental mindset of just like, why don't you try it? Like, why don't you see what would happen in that corner? And then if they go into overthink of being like, okay, like, what if the horse does this, or what if the horse does that? That's kind of like a stop block for going forward. And you just be like, well, why don't you try it and see if they will, let's see what the horse does. Let's see what you do. And then you can kind of go from there and kind of build that conversation. Now, anything, let's say you're at a 5 out of 10 for baggage. Those ones is where I would do a lot of transition exercises. So what I mean by that is I'd make the fences so small they're not even cavalettis. And I would say, okay, I'll give you an example. See this, it's tiny. It's not even a cross rail. It's basically a pole on the ground. I would go over this tiny cross rail, and I'd have the rider turn their head and look and go over that next tiny little cross rail. So by creating a turn, by the way, anytime you have a nervous rider, don't send them out on a big open space because their horse can build and build and build. Instead, make the space that you're working in smaller. So anything that's over a 5 out of 10 for nervousness or baggage, I make the space that we're working in smaller, more manageable. So by this, it's just a tiny little pole turning to another tiny little pole. And then we can kind of work on techniques. So if the rider is, let's say, a 5 out of 10 for nerves, I'd say, okay, I want you to come through the corner. Let's say this is your corner. I want you to come through this corner. And right about here, I want you to stop your horse. And then go ahead and walk over this pole. And then what I want you to do is, after you've walked over the pole, I want you to pick up your trot and then go through this corner. But before that X, I want you to go ahead and walk over that pole. So you're doing a transition downwards in front of something tiny. The horse doesn't have to put any effort in to go over that. And so then the next level is if you have a rider who is, let's say, a 6 out of 10 or anything above 5 really, go ahead and do these exercises in the walk and don't introduce the trot. Because the more nervous or scared a rider is, the more chance they're going to get injured. So this right here, I'd have them go ahead and come through the corner and then halt, and then come through the corner and halt. Go ahead and walk and come through this corner and halt here. And then let's say this is a 7 out of 10. Go through this right to about here and halt, and just maintain the halt and just relax. And so by taking the energy out of coming to the fence, you'll find that actually in that same ride, their confidence will start to return, and then the horse will relax, the rider will relax, and then you can do less downward transitions, and then you can introduce some trot. So by doing a downward transition in front of poles on the ground, you actually get them to think that they do not need speed to get over tiny little fences. So that is one way I love to help a nervous rider. Now, the next one is for a rider who has 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 baggage. And that's where they're so nervous. What I'll get them to do is hop on, hop off lessons. Or anytime a rider's had a severe fall, and just be like, okay, so we are going to make this so simple that you are going to get bored, because bored is the opposite of fear. So you make their lessons so darn simple that they're like almost begging you to go up. And so if it takes a week, if it takes a month, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to keep the rider safe. And so I'll give you an example of that. Especially if like somebody almost has like PTSD level scared, what I'll have them do is, our mounting block is over there somewhere. Where is it? There it is. I'm staring into the sun, so I actually can't see it. I'll have them go to the mounting block, go ahead and get on. And if they're 7 out of 10 fear, I'll get them to walk less than 10 steps, hop off, and then hand walk this huge arena, basically, and then go ahead, and the next time we'll get on and we'll do 10 steps again. And then the next time after that, they'll get off, hand walk all the way around. Now, the other thing is by getting off and hand walking all the way around, what they're going to start to do is get a little tired. And being tired is actually a wonderful way of releasing that fear emotion. So by getting off and getting back on, getting off and getting back on, and each time you can go and do a little bit more or a little bit less depending on what the horse is doing, what the rider is doing. If the horse, when you go ahead and do the get on, get off, what I would do is I would keep the rider close to me. So I'd keep the rider on the inside of these jumps and just not go near the perimeter. And then as the rider gets more confident, then I would go ahead and say, okay, you can go ahead and start walking the perimeter or walking further away from me. So the thing that I do as a coach is I can actually calm my energy down. And this is a skill, okay? This is something that you can actually practice. There's a really great book called The Art of Impossible. And you can actually train your body to go into kind of different brain waves. Or anybody who's practiced yoga or meditation, the more, if I go ahead and go into almost a meditative state and start going into the the brain waves just before sleep. I don't know if you can get into delta brain waves, but just relaxing and kicking any thoughts out of my head. The more thoughts I kick out of my head and the more I can start to go into a meditative state, I will actually pull the people around me into a calmer energy. And I've actually done this really cool thing before. I was getting my hair done. It was at Christmas. And I was getting my hair chemically straightened because my hair is like crazy. And I was sitting in the chair and my hairdresser goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This place is just hopping. And it's so noisy." And I said, "Oh, do you want me to help with that?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I can make it quieter in here." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Okay, I gotta see this, go ahead." And I kid you not, we timed it. I'm like, "Okay, set a timer." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Set a timer for 5 minutes." And so then within 2.5 minutes, this place, it was crazy. It was every single chair was taken and all the hairdressers were talking. The mall was crazy. And within 2.5 minutes, this is my personal best, all you could hear was the radio. And he looked at me, he's like, "How the heck did you do that?" And I said, "It's really, really simple. It's herd mentality. And if you just go into a meditative state, everyone else around you will start to get pulled into a meditative state as well." Anyway, that's how, if you're a coach, you can help your riders calm down. And it'll also help give them confidence. The other one last thing is, if I'm talking to a nervous rider, there's no way I would talk this fast because that's my internal rhythm is going like this. It's going, if you were to draw a circle, it's going way too quick. So if I'm talking to a nervous rider, the rate that I speak slows down. And the more nervous they are, the slower I will talk. So if I slow my internal rhythm down, people around me will start to slow their internal rhythm down. That's also a really great way to win arguments as well. Anyway, have a great day.